Anissa, we are blessed with, we're 2 girls and 4 guys. We got our pick of the litter.
Woohoo!
Yeah. Anyway, in our studio today, we have got Dan Beck with Credit Management Specialist, who, thank you so much, Dan, for coming all the way down from Greeley to be with us today. I'm so excited to talk with you about your new book, too, which is called Revealed, The Truth About Credit. So that'll be great. Say hello, please.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate being here.
That's great. And then we also have Craig Turner and Chris Cortland with First Priority Financial. So thank you so much for being here, because we're going to be talking about a unique type of loan product for the USDA rural loans today.
Exactly. Appreciate you having us.
And some people probably didn't even know USDA did loans.
No, they usually do meat.
Yeah, exactly.
That's true. That is true. That's true.
That's an interesting combination.
Absolutely. So if you have questions while you're listening on our show today and you want to call in and talk to us about anything we're talking about, our phone number in the studio is 719-265-9661. And for those of you that prefer to text, our text number is 719-433-5899. So let's get right in there and let's talk a little bit about our first guest, Dan Beck with Credit Management Specialist. Now, Dan, I think you were telling me before the show that you have been a lender for a good many years, and during the course of that experience, you became a little bit dissatisfied with the whole credit repair type of industry, and that's sort of what pummeled you forward to go into the credit management arena. Would that be right?
Correct, yeah. I spent 7 years doing mortgage loans. I do nothing with mortgages now. I've been out of that industry for about 4 years. But during that process, we started seeing, like anything, more and more need for credit help, situations like that. So we sent people to credit repair, or what I call typical credit repair companies, and was very dissatisfied with a lot of the aspects of it. So at that point, I decided, hey, there can be a better way of doing this. And that's kind of morphed into where we're at now with Credit Management Specialists. I've been doing this about 4 years now.
Oh, that's great. That's great. So tell us a little bit about the kind of people that would need your type of service, and just sort of explain what your service entails.
Yeah, I don't usually market or call myself credit repair. Usually the reason that is most people just think of negative items and think of, oh, I only need credit repair if my credit's really bad. And while we can help those people, I try to look at it a little bit further. I think education is the most important piece of it. That's why I wrote this book that we'll talk about. But we look at anybody that has less than a 750 credit score. I think there's something I can share with you that can help you.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
You know, I really appreciate what you're saying. Being in the real estate industry as a realtor, of course, we have to have lenders in order to get paid. That's just the bottom line, real truth. And so I know I have educated myself a lot about credit, and sometimes it's very frustrating because I feel like sometimes I know more than the lenders. And I know that there's all kinds of little tricks, like, for example, and this is rumor, so you can confirm or deny, but I've heard things that, like, even if you have a judgment or even if you have something that's very old on your credit report, actually paying it may not be beneficial, or the way you approach it or how you do it can make huge difference in your credit. And so I love having someone that I can trust. You know, I can focus on being a professional in my department and having someone I can trust to coach. Right. Coach people.
No, and you're right with that. The first thing I want people to understand is credit is not common sense. So people always try to put common sense equation into it, and that's that you're going on the wrong road. You're going to set yourself up for frustration if you're doing that. It's all about predictive information. Credit scores, and that's where it gets confusing, is where you're getting information. There's so many companies that have created products based around a credit score. Well, the difference I want people to understand is we shouldn't be concerned with just a credit score. What we care about is a FICO score. That's what lenders use to evaluate whether or not they're going to give you a loan.
He's pointing at our lenders here.
Pointing to the lenders. Hopefully they're singing with me over here.
Yeah.
Why do we have all these heads nodding?
So it's all about FICO, and that's the tough thing, is to find correct factual information about FICO scores, because there's so many things online that are telling you how to improve your credit score, which might be a completely different model. So you follow these paths, Next thing you know, you're not doing anything positive for your FICO score. You still can't get approved for a house.
So, if I may interject here, let's go ahead and bring up that difference what is the difference between the FICO score versus the credit score, Dan?
Well, all of them evaluate information on your credit report. But, for example, if I was smarter with computer programming and stuff like that, I could create Dan Beck's credit score.
Uh-huh.
Now, it would be a credit score that is based upon information on each one of our credit reports. The difference being is the lenders aren't going to say, hey, what's your Dan Beck's credit score to give you a loan? They're going to say, what's your FICO score? So everything is evaluated differently based upon what models. For example, a FICO score goes from 300 to 850. There's a lot of models out there that go from 500 to 950. So a consumer pulls their credit score and they say, hey, I'm an 827. They walk into their lender and they're really a 619. Did they do something wrong? No, they're just looking at a different model.
So would those different models be like through the different credit bureau agencies like TransUnion, Equifax, and
Experian?
Thank you, Experian.
All of those companies have come out with different ones. They all got together, created the Vantage score, trying to take the FICO score out of business.
Was it well, and there was also Isaac.
Fair Isaac is FICO.
Oh, okay, no, but there was another one that they were going to switch to. You can tell how much I've kept track.
They've updated FICO 8. FICO 08 is the latest installment of the FICO score. But see, to add more confusion to all this, if we haven't confused you enough, FICO has all kind of different scores. So they have mortgage specific, they have auto specific, they have credit card specific, then they have older models, newer models. So one person to the next, you're never going to see the same score because there's all kind of different models out there.
So when are we doing a class on this? Because I need to take that class.
Whenever you want it.
All right, let's get that going because I obviously need it.
So let's talk about some of the things that, negative items. How long do negative items stay on a person's credit report? It seems to me like they stay for an infinite period of time. I just know that the older I get, the more pages I accrue. Well,
I was going to say the older I get, the less time it stays on my credit report, I'm sure. At least it doesn't seem as long.
With negative stuff, what we're always talking about or with the credit score, first of all, I'll tell you this is how long they can stay. Nowhere does it say that lenders have to keep things a certain amount of time. That's just how long they're able to keep them for a maximum. So if you start talking about most negative items, it's 7 years from the date of delinquency. So if I had a 30-day late payment on my credit card, that can stay for 7 years from that date. They don't have to keep it for 7 years, but that's how long they're allowed to keep it.
You mean the credit bureau reporting agencies, right?
Right.
Well, and I've also heard that, and that was interesting. I heard what you said, and I paid really close attention. You said from the date of delinquency. Yet I've also heard that whenever a debt is sold, that collection company, they can start over. They can file that onto your credit report, and then those days begin again. So you could have something on your credit report that is actually 14 years old, but you've had 3 or 4 credit agencies that have re-reported it.
That happens. It's not legal.
Okay, so that would be something, that would be an easy fix.
So every time that a collection company starts re-aging debt, as it's called.
Oh, okay.
So they re-age a debt. Now, again, it's not legal. They can't do that, but the FICO score is not smart enough to sit there and say, hey, that was really a collection that happened 5 years ago. It just got sold to a new company. We're going to treat it as a 5-year-old collection. That's
not a field that they have to input when they submit it.
It's not part of their code they've put together. So the situation comes up of it's not legal, it's not right, but who's watching it, who's catching it, and how to get it fixed?
Mm-hmm. I want to ask you a question based on what I was saying a little earlier about something that may have been on your credit report for a long time. Does paying a collection always improve your credit score? Does it ever improve your credit score?
Paying a collection will usually have a slightly positive or neutral effect to your score. Now, keep in mind, the FICO score's purpose is not designed to say, hey, what's the chance of you paying a collection? Okay? It's designed to say, what's the chance of you being 90 days late in the next 2 years? So you get punished for the incident, which is the collection, not necessarily the balance. And the one thing I want to caution you, collection companies sometimes play by their own rules. So you go and pay this whole debt. You don't always have the most ethical, honest things going on sometimes where they might mistakenly update a date, which would be the date of first delinquency. So now you pay a 5-year-old debt and your credit score goes down because a date got updated improperly.
I heard that. And that's where my original question came from is I've heard that if the account is inactive, basically, and it's been inactive for several years, you may very well be better off leaving that thing alone.
Right. Don't go start uncovering stuff. I mean, that's a situation where maybe if you can get away with the loan, pay it at closing, or ask the company to delete it if you pay it.
Our lenders are shaking their head yes again. Man, we're gonna have.
We discussed it in the parking lot. We're on the same page.
Yeah. Well, something. So yeah, that's really good information, because I actually I've talked with clients and they call me and they tell me, I've been working on my credit. And I think,
right.
What have you done to your credit?
No, and you got to be careful. I mean, there's a lot of stuff. I've seen stuff where there's only a 90-day late payment shown on the credit report, but not a 30 and a 60. So clients, customers try to fix this on their own. I always tell them, be careful, because you might be successful in getting a lender to add a 30 and a 60-day late as well. I mean, you got to know what you're doing.
So if you start questioning it or something, and they say,
Thanks
not
for bringing that up for
not
me.
only is the 90-day late correct, but we didn't put a 60 and a 30 on there. So.
Exactly.
Okay.
Well, I don't know. I'll tell you what, the more and more we talk about this here, the more I can totally see why we need a class on just credit repair, credit scoring, the whole 9 yards there.
Yes. I love, Cheryl, I'm sorry, I love the fact that you call it credit management.
Correct.
I really like that. And really, if you are going to be a steward of your financial life and your financial future, really, you need to be managing not just your finances, not just your bills, but managing your credit as well.
Correct. The goal is to turn your credit into an asset.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because it affects every financial transaction we do. So if we neglect it, then we just pay more for everything the rest of our life, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Now, I would like to, we only have a few minutes left here for this particular segment on this thing, but we'll be bringing it back in the course of the rest of our discussion with our illustrious lenders on board.
Who keep shaking their head yes.
Yes, because they like what you're saying. There's no doubt about it. Your service, I mean, can you all tell us a little bit about the service you provide to consumers, and can you guarantee any kind of results for them? What can you tell them about that?
Number one, education. Don't take this wrong, but if a client becomes mine, I don't want them back as a client.
Yeah.
Okay? Not because I don't like them, but we want to educate them so they know what they're doing the rest of their life. They don't need to come back to me for help. The negative items that we address, which is only 35% of the score. So when you start talking about credit repair, that's what most people think about.
Right.
We want to touch the whole 100%. But on the 35%, we're going to work on those negative items for the client. But we do have a 100% money-back warranty, which is not existence in the industry besides with us.
Okay.
So it's performance-based. If we're not successful at getting at least 25% of the inaccurate, unverifiable, negative items removed from that client's credit report in 6 months, I'll write them a check for every nickel they pay me, hand it back to them. My time, work, education was done for free.
Okay, so how much does it cost?
That depends.
Hey, that's my favorite answer. You can't steal it.
Usually what happens is I have a free consultation. I would go over the credit report and find out what type of work's involved in there. I mean, I have some clients that have 2 negative accounts. I have another client that has 119 accounts.
Oh,
so
yeah,
obviously,
so different levels of work required.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely there. Now, tell us really quickly here before we cut to break here about your book, Revealed the Truth About Credit. I took a little bit of a look at it there, and it really looks like you have a lot of different myths in here, which I think are really kind of interesting in here.
That was my favorite topic because you hear so much crazy advice, so many wrong things. So I spent the majority of the book writing about the top 17 myths that I've found, most heard, most talked about. The whole purpose of the book is not to be some long thing. I took a lot of time to shorten it down so that people might actually read it, get through it. And then there's practical things of what to do, how to get your credit, how to write a dispute letter, how to fix your own credit on your own. You don't need me for a lot of the stuff if you just follow the book.
Well, that is great. Now, speaking of the book, it is an e-book,
Correct.
So they can download it.
Correct.
I'd love to put it on Red Rocks Institute if that would be okay.
Sure.
We have a Knowledge Center page there where we can go ahead and do that. But also, where can they contact you? What's your phone number, and where can they go to download that book directly?
I am in Greeley, so the phone number is 970-302-5185.
Okay.
You better say that again. It's 10 digits.
970-302-5185 is my direct number.
Okay, and what's the website that they can go visit?
The website's pretty easy. It's danbeckcreditrepair.com.
Yeah, danbeckcreditrepair.com.
And there's information on there, but also you can download the book on that website with a promo code. I'm going to use the promo code for these listeners. Use the promo code RADIO
Okay,
And then
radio.
you'll get that book for free.
Hey, I love that because then we'll know who came from the show.
That's right.
That's
That
Keep track
good. Yes, yes.
Thought about it. On the
Oh, you rock.
You're fast.
You're hired.
Fast, Dan. You're fast. You're fast. You're fast. Well, folks, listen, it's that time. We could go ahead and talk a whole lot more about this subject, and we will, I'm sure. But we're going to go ahead and cut to a commercial. You've been talking with Dan Beck at Credit Management Specialist. And again, let's just repeat that phone number for you because it was a 10-digit deal, 970-302-5185. 5185. When we come back, we're going to do our little property showcase segment, and then we're going to jump in with our lenders.